Alright guys, I've been working on this lock for 3 hours. I've actually been waiting 3 hours for the fall update for the Windows Creator Edition to finish. Finally got it so I can record sound. This is number 3 from Whompy. You guys probably remember some of his locks before. He's got some unique pins. In fact, I have actually a 2-page letter. Got some personal stuff on it, so I'm not going to show it on camera, but he says, on this lock, he tried to focus on what weirdness hasn't been shown or what might twiddle your bits, quote unquote. In the past, my locks have been whimsical and or unclassifiable. That's true if you guys remember some of his pins. He listened to your comments and he took to heart comments about improving the bitting, threading, as well as improving the pin cutting. So it ought to be something to look forward to in here. Says he's included some ancient technology. He says, as I'm gunning for a whipped by. So I will see your whip by with this and call. This is one of the locks that was donated by Pack Lock called a block lock, and they laser engraved it with our logo. So if you get a whip by, I'll send you one of these bad boys. Let's see what else. The key is stiff, but it works. It is locked, by the way. And here is the key. It is a Schlage, even though it says Abus on it. And he's got this thing mummified with like 3 different kinds of tape. So anyway, we don't need that stinking key. Thanks for the package of locks. I sent him a whole bunch of stuff, blah, blah, blah. And let's see. The last one, he says, he talked to his cousin about the pin, the alien ancient tech that's in here. His cousin's a locksmith, and he says he'd never seen or heard of him. And then he went to an elder locksmith. That means an old guy, like me, yeah. And similarly, he's never seen or heard of the pins that are inside of here. So it ought to be a lot of fun. It's a wide open keyway. Schlage is a lot of fun to pick. I'm going to try, there's 2 ways you can approach this. I'm going to try to approach it from this ledge. And the first, I always try to force things first. So I'm going to take a nice thick 25,000 pick. I'm going to go from the ledge here and then try to force them. If that doesn't work, then I'm going to take one of these by Rare Elements, the 13,000. And this is thin enough that I can actually go from the bottom. Look at that. That thing went up and stayed up. No spring in that one. Anyway, he'll go from the bottom and he gets around that warding. So 2 ways. These are great picks, but they don't give a lot of feedback because they're so thin. So I like to try a thick one first. Let me knock that pin back down since it apparently didn't have a spring in it. There may be more than one of those guys in there. Let's give it a shot. Get him out of the way. All right, that ought to be good. Let me zoom in a little bit. Find a good tensioner. I'm going to try 50,000 top of the keyway. And there is a lot of flop in there. So what I'm going to do, since you have to pick these clockwise, I don't have the option of going counterclockwise. What I'm going to do is I'm going to tension it, learning from my own mistakes here. Then I'm going to draw a line here and also on the core. So if we get a fault set, you guys hopefully will be able to see it. Get that cap back on that pin. I can, come here, you. There we go. All right. All right, that was the plan. Top of the keyway and go in from the side first. Try to force it. Let me turn it just a little bit. Get that reflection off of that mark. All right, so when I try to force it, generally I put moderate tension, even though I know this is probably a lot of serrations because the letter said so. Find a binder. Pin 4, got to get around him. Well, since nothing's picked, what I'm going to do, release my tension, slide my pick under 4, tighten the tension back up, and check the last. Yeah, we're good. We're still springy back there. Let me find one. Okay, pin 2 is definitely binding, so I'm just going to, I got a lot of tension on this guy. Try to work that pick under him and force him up. Get under there. Lighten up on my tension a little bit just so I can get the pick under him. Get under there. Get under there. I'm getting a little counter rotation. He's probably a spool. Get under there. I got pretty light tension on this thing, and he didn't want to give up. And had a heck of a time getting him out, but you're not going to believe this. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. We have an open. I don't think it was intended to be an open. Let me go ahead and let me zoom in and show you what I'm talking about here. You obviously see the break between these two lines, so it only moved that much. I believe this was probably intended to be a false set because I only picked 2 pins, number 1 and number 2. I think this is only supposed to be a false set, but it rotated the core enough to disengage the actuator, which then gave us an open. Unbelievable. All right, that is a designer mistake, but it's not my mistake, so I'm going to call it open. Why not? All right. Let's go ahead and pop this baby open. Let's take a look at the key, see what we got. Doesn't seem fair, does it? But when I make mistakes, you guys count them against me, right? Come here, I got that knife. Well, that wasn't even taped on there. Thank goodness he did make a mistake. That was the one I picked, number 2. I mean, look at these 3, man. They are like way below max. I'm not sure. Well, I definitely would have had to go with probably one of the 13,000s to get that last one, if I had to. But as it was, apparently number 2 was enough to give us a false set, enough to give us an open. Let's take a look. It just doesn't seem right. Really, it just doesn't seem fair. Okay, there's the little Z. All right, give me that key. That last spring's really strong. Definitely, he should have turned a lot more. It does stick a little bit, but it does work. I don't think opening it or turning it just that much, if that much, I don't think that really should have given us an open. That was just a design flaw, but we're going to count it. All right, by the follower, let's get this guy open. Push that little detent in. Make sure everything's lined up here. I always get nervous with these guys because they get stuck just like he did just now. He definitely stuck. All right, we can get these pins out. I'm going to leave my follower in there, and let's just go ahead and get, because he's definitely stuck. And I don't know why. That detent should not have gotten, he's still rotating, so the detent is not caught in anything. All right, well, before I start monkeying with it, there's a tiny little pin. Okay, so he was in there like this, then that guy, and then that guy. We'll figure this out in a second. I can't even get the key out. Number 2. Looks like a homemade spool with a serration on the lower part of it. Number 3. Homemade serrated. Number 4. A subcaliber pin. And he actually was on the top. There's something else inside of there. And there he is. It's a standard pin. It's sticking to my finger. And he's hollowed out on the top. and a subcaliber serrated pin was fit into the top of him. That little, when I say subcaliber, I mean diameter of master or American pin. It was fitting down inside of the top of him just like that. All right, this guy looks a little interesting. Now we can get our pin out, or our key out. Okay, now we have another one of these little pin-in-pin guys. And he's like a little needle. And the last one, come out of there. A homemade serrated with a T-pin on the top. All right, now it's going to get interesting because, oh goodness. I think we have a pin that's protruded down into the gap. Yeah, I'd be willing to bet that's what so what I'm going to do, I think I can get away with this. I'm going to rotate it and allow that pin to fall down. No, I'm not. He's definitely stuck. There he is. Dang it. It was our D10. He got stuck there. I thought I'd rotated him to the flat part. All right. Upstairs. This just fell out. We have another pin. Come on, focus for me. Another pin in a wafer. And he is in the upper chamber of chamber 1. Thank goodness I didn't have to pick all of these. There's something else in chamber 1. He's not coming out. All right, well, let's just get the rest of these guys. Chamber 2 does not have a spring. Nothing came out of there. And there's a spring. He came out of 3, though. I'm sorry, 2. This is odd. There's something in chamber 1 that is spring loaded, but he's not coming up. He's not even engaging. He's past the shear line. So it's stuck on the serrations, whatever he is. All right, chamber 3. Nothing popped up on chamber 3 either. So let's see if we can look in through the side window. I've got a feeling we're going to see a lot of these things with no springs. Same thing on 3. Something is stuck down in the serrations and he doesn't even come up to the shear line. See if I can break him loose. No, he's not coming. There he is. That just came out of chamber 3. I think that was by design. Chamber 2 is still stuck. I'm sorry, chamber 1 is still stuck. All right, number 4. Again, something below the shear line. And there he is. No spring. Let's go around to the back here. Again, something doesn't break the shear line on the last pin. And this is really odd. And there he is. It was looks like it was a loaded pin. It's got a little bend in him. That's probably what was holding him in place in chamber 6. And this guy was right below him. So he was bent. That's why nothing was coming up. Number 5 below the shear line, we have what appears to be a mushroom, an inverted mushroom. All right, guys, this, I don't know if you can see it, but there's still something stuck in chamber 1. So what I'm going to bet is that these go here. And chamber 1, let me give them a good wrap. There he is. It is a compressed spring. There had to have been something else in there. There has to be. There he is. He's stuck right there, little serrated guy. So the crushed spring, I don't know. I'm at a total loss now. There's got to be something under pin 1. Serrated on both ends. We have a mangled spring, so he definitely doesn't go there. Man, have I ever screwed this up. It was a tiny piece of mangled spring, and I don't know where he fell to. Here he is. That's all that was in there. All right, I'm not even going to try to analyze this because Whompy, let's take a look at it first. All right, chamber 1, we had all kinds of weirdness. Let me grab something to point with here. Come here. I'll use these tweezers. We had a lot of pin-in-pin action going. We had this little pin that fits down inside of there, and then this little guy. The serrated pin actually went like that, and you can see he also has a hole in him to accommodate one of these 2 pins. On number 2, I really don't know where this guy came from. We had a totally mangled up spring jammed up in the bottom of there. We had another pin-in-pin, goes like that, and then a homemade spool with little sharp serrations. So the quality of the pins are really, really nice. This guy was in there like that. A tiny little spring, serrations and spools, all homemade. Number 3, we had a normal size pin, but with a cup cut into the top of the pin that accommodated a master serrated pin that went right in the top of there. This little guy, again, I believe he was oriented like that. Number 4, we had a pin that has a hole in the top of it. Oops. And I believe he went in like that. Get in there. I really don't know. Maybe he went in like that. Probably that's the way he went. And then the last one was totally out of action because when it was in the top, this pin protruded through that little hole right there down into this one, which also has a hole in it. But this pin was bent, so it kind of inactivated this entire cylinder. So while 6 might have been a real bear to pick, I think all this stuff was caught above the shear line. A lot of this stuff didn't have springs, or if there are springs, they are caught in there and never coming out. Now that I'm looking at this on the top of the core, I'm seeing a lot of homemade work done on here. These are all cross-threaded in here. None of them are really straight. So what I suspect happened, Whompy, is when you loaded your pins from the top, which is probably why you did this, you probably pinched a lot of things and definitely pinched up some of these springs and got them caught, which kind of removed them from the whole formula, kind of defeated you. What I would say on this one is that your attention to detail is beautiful. Your design work is wonderful, and definitely you got some weirdness. You've definitely, how did you put it? You've twiddled my bits. But because you tried to get over-complicated a little bit, you overcompensated on the depth here, obviously way out of max, and that's okay on a challenge lock, but I think you just tried to over-design this thing. And when you over-design things, it gets overcomplicated. Stuff just doesn't work. And I think that's what happened here. I was able to picking 2 pins out of 6. So 1/3 of them, and we got an open. So I can't, it isn't a whip. You're not going to get that. But what I will do for effort, I will throw in some LockLab stickers. Anyway, Whompy, thank you, sir. It's obvious to me an awful lot of work went into this lock. I appreciate it. Make some mods, and probably if all these pins had worked, you definitely would have gotten a whip by. No question in my mind. Anyway, fellas, thanks for your time. Stay safe, stay legal. If you've got any more comments for Whompy, please put them in the description or in the comments, and let him know for version 4. Thanks, guys.